In some ways, it's kind of funny because in 2025, having a 9 to 5 for a lot of people is a flex. And I find this a funny concept. I really do. There's a lot of people out there who are making a killing in business. There's a lot of people who are doing their own thing. That's great. But there's a lot of people who aren't. And I hear all these people all the time say, man, I wish I could quit my 9 to 5. 9 to 5 is not for me. 9 to 5 is working for the man. As an overarching concept, I do agree. The reality of life is that not everybody is a business person, though. And everyone who moans about the 9 to 5 fails to acknowledge this. They fail to acknowledge the challenges that come with running any kind of business. I don't care if you've got the easiest business in the world, you've still got taxes, probably customers, and other issues to deal with logistically. So every business has its own challenge. You also have to be very motivated and very hardworking. The 9 to 5, though, in 2025, is kind of villainized, right? It's kind of demonized. Everyone's in this idea of escape from the matrix, go and do your own thing, be your own boss. And for some people, like me, right, I run my own businesses, it works out well. I know a lot of people, though, who could not run their own businesses. Their personality would not allow for it, and they'd be great workers forever. At the same time, almost everybody that I know is hating on the 9 to 5. Of course, it's not a path for everybody. In 2025, though, with the current economic climate, having a 9 to 5 for a lot of people, arguably even most people, is the real flex. And it sounds kind of paradoxical, but I feel like this is because the people who like to glamorize the business life and the life away from the 9 to 5 do not understand the stresses that come with it. When you work a 9 to 5 job, you get paid an hourly rate or a salary, right? To some people, that's an income limiter. To a lot of people, they wouldn't be able to make any money without it. They don't have the skills to go it alone and make thousands of pounds a day. They just don't. In a world like this, in a market like this, these people need to acknowledge this. Not only the challenges that they would face in the world of business, but also how the 9 to 5 appears to be a trend in a lot of industries that is dying out. People who have a stable 9 to 5 job and are comfortable with it, in some ways I'm kind of jealous, right? In some ways I'm kind of jealous. I don't know if I would be all too comfortable with that lifestyle myself. But if I was, if I could be, I feel like it's the way to go. And I'll tell you why. Not only do we have the challenges in business that I've just spoken about, we also have an economic climate now where most companies are employing workers on these pretty sketchy terms, right? 0 hours contracts, temporary workers where they basically give you almost no rights. If you do one thing wrong, you're sacked, and then they just bring in the next set of temporary workers at the end of the contract. So there's that. There's lots of different things in the modern workforce. Then we've got gig work as a whole. A lot of people now are pushing these kind of jobs, and a lot of people I know that are doing these jobs are stressed up to here, right? And rightly so. For a student, for a college student, uni student, whatever, very, very easy doing a 0 hours contract. Very, very easy doing gig work. Very, very easy doing a temporary job. It's fine, doesn't matter. But come to the point where you've got kids and a family and a car and a house and a mortgage. It's not so fun. It's not so easy either. I feel like it goes to a larger point or a deeper point that we have about society at the minute. The lack of understanding of the privilege that we have. I'm not saying that a 9 to 5 is the best use of time for everybody. But in today's world, in fact in any world since the beginning of the system, you need to make money from somewhere. And a lot of people don't even understand how they could not go it alone. So that's part of the issue. And the second part of the issue is a lack of understanding of today's economic climate. So how is having a 9 to 5 the actual flex? Well, you've got set hours. A lot of the time you've got fairly okay working conditions. You will get paid for showing up, right? In the world of mass layoffs as well that we're in, or that we're at the very least, entering into, both in Europe and the US in 2025, having a stable job now is really going to be a great privilege. And so many people are out here trying to lament it, out here trying to insult it, hate on it, whilst not having a very realistic worldview at all. Man, I wish I could start my own business and escape the 9 to 5, but I got me 9 to 5 working. You can do both. Right? Now, is that going to be an easy thing to do? No. Is it something that I've done? Yes. Right? I explained this over the last couple of months. I've been working in a job whilst running my businesses. Was it easy? Not really. Was it fun? Definitely not. But can it be done? Yes. And then you can start to think about phasing out your 9 to 5 if you want to do it that way. But why do we have so many people out here who are really trying to villainize this idea that they've got to work 9 to 5, which is not that long comparative to how much they earn in a lot of cases? Not all. Some 9 to 5s are abysmally paid, so please don't get me wrong. But they're not weighing up their alternatives. If you're going to quit a 9 to 5 and start a business for the pay, unless you've got an established business which you're just thinking about scaling and you know it's going to be relatively successful, I wouldn't recommend it, right? Think about it realistically. You're going to quit a 9 to 5, and that was the one thing that when I was working my job, I was eternally thankful for. Even if it wasn't much, I knew what I was getting, right? I knew what I was getting. You do 4 hours, you get X amount. You do 8 hours, you get X amount. You do 12 hours, you get X amount. Cool, great, fine. It was money on the table. I can sit here right now filming videos all day. And this video, the next video, a video after, might get 100k views, and it's what we might call, a payday. Maybe a couple of hundred, maybe a couple thousand, great. None of them might do well. I can upload hundreds of items on eBay, sure. Some days I might get thousands of pounds worth of sales, and over the year it works out to be quite a nice amount, but it's not for the faint of heart. It's closer to gig work and that sort of thing than people realise. And another big thing about most people's business ideas is you're not creating perhaps a business in the way you think. This is something that I've realised in my life, in my business over the past couple weeks, really. I've got more of a job than a business. And actually it's a fairly long hours job in a lot of ways. Do I mind? No. You've got to leverage the skills that you have and the assets that you have. So for example, if you're time rich and asset poor, go make some money, invest, build a bigger business, and maybe employ people, so on and so forth. But a lot of you guys want to escape the world of 9 to 5 to work 9 till 9 building a business. Because in the early days, that is kind of what it takes a lot of the time. It takes longer hours, harder work, more stress, right? It really does. I've done it, I know. I'm doing it, I know. So, what's my point here? My point is, a lot of people don't realise this. They're going to escape their job to, in a lot of cases, not all, create a job for themselves where the pay is a lot more inconsistent. The employment rights, per se, there aren't really any because you're your own business person. And if you fail or lose your job, it's all on you, right? It's all on you. A lot of places will not necessarily look on these skills as transferable. Not always, but sometimes. And no one really thinks about this. You see, as a society today, as we all know, it's all about making the most with minimal effort, and I agree it should be. Why not? If you can make X amount more from doing less, why not? Brilliant. At the same time though, what is the catch? The catch is, for everyone that makes it, and a lot of people do, there's a lot more people who, not even due to the fact that the business is unviable, let's say, there's a lot more people who will not be willing to put in the extra hours, will not be willing to deal with the extra stress, will not be willing to deal with the challenges that are ahead of them. And this is why I say most people who work a 9 to 5 probably shouldn't start a business to begin with. It's probably not worth it for them because they wouldn't understand what comes next. They don't know what they're getting themselves into. So in 2025... a stable 9 to 5 job is increasingly hard to come by, especially if you've got good pay and a fairly decent employer. So many people are forced into these gig jobs, these part-time jobs, these temporary jobs, these 0 hours contract jobs, and it's not going to create a sustainable lifestyle. Everyone's got to do something to live on. When you get more assets, when you get more skills, it becomes a lot easier. If you don't have skills or assets, you need to be willing to put in the time, overtime, to get those. And this is what started a business is like in a lot of instances. Look at all of the top billionaires who are in business, right? They talk about doing nothing but work, sleep and work, sleep and work. How many people can put up with that? If the answer's not you, it might be worth considering how viable replacing your entire income from a stable job with a online business or any kind of business really is. If you've got a plan and an idea, that's up to you to decide. But I think the 9 to 5 being villainized, for most people, is probably not. They probably wouldn't have a better option if they really weighed up their odds. I don't know, guys. I feel like this is something that not many people will say because it's not a flashy thing to talk about. It's not exciting. But it is, I think, a fact. It's a reality for so many people, and so many people don't understand this. They wouldn't have better options.